It's Tuesday. It's April 19th, 2022. I am here in the room watching over the Channel 7. Now, it says it's ABC World News Tonight with David Muir. In the background, it has some thing. It's got something over here. I don't know what these are. But this is the section of where Viens voir, and I am watching over at the moment, trying to make sure that what is meant in gets in properly. It seems a little confusing. They're up to, the humans are up to their reporting in this new method where I am trapped here in New York by myself, and they, for 4 decades, no less, I mean, there's been under 6 foot during a 6 foot under syndrome, but in Valkyrie, they know what I speak of. I need an over 6 foot with an arm to hold respectfully, to ask and look up to, before I know anything for certain. And here we are. They speak of this masking confusion. I did the local broadcast from just, I don't know if you consider it, just inside of Empire State with their attempt at reporting properly. So that would be local inside Empire State. Now this pans out to World News Tonight, and I did notice a few changes between earlier and now, which I'll lovingly point out to the over 6 foot person that I should be hooked arms within and speaking directly to in reporting, because normally I wouldn't have to do this if things were working correctly on my position in the world, but here we are, that the world is off. And I don't know how to be useful to make sure that they succeed in what I need, which at the moment is a little bit of breathing room and being able to walk upright through the USA or the Empire State or the Big Apple or New York, any of the above, because for me they are all one and the same at the moment, as a starting place, even though this feels like an ending place, but whatever on that. So this is what I have found this evening.
With David Muir. Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Tuesday night. The news coming in from Ukraine and Mariupol. More than 1,000 Ukrainians and fighters refusing to surrender tonight inside that steel plant, and we have new reporting here. But we do begin tonight with the pandemic after a federal judge overturned the CDC's travel mask mandate.
Mask confusion at JetBlue. I don't know how they got anything. Look at this.
All of the major airlines tonight dropping their mask rules, and still some cities, though, keeping them in place once you get off the planes. At airports across the country, we saw the crowds today, the masked and those without, at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, at Boston's Logan Airport. They were taking down the mask sign.
Now, I made this pronunciation earlier in proclamation for those that are, or maybe not proclamation, because I saw that on a official something or other. I'll stay away from that word. But my viewpoint, my POV at the moment, almost like a rover, is I don't work inside of an airport. So now, if there are traveling words, traveling variants, traveling populations that somehow have money and a job that allows them to be frequent flyers, or governmental work where they work internationally or via institution or whatever. That population of travels a lot or frequent flyers would have access to interior FAA first publication. They would have access to news, symbols, letter changes. They would have access to aviation level intelligence, and that would put them at an advantage to where my pathway has been. These people being at a higher pathway to success for some other purpose. That puts the advantage and the onus on them for making sure that the nuclear problem does not, whatever, with nuclear substations and creating all sorts of interior problems. I was not allowed, I mean, again, for personal travel, I don't have any money, so it precludes me from being able to do this. But there are TSA workers, which are the agency workers with Homeland Security. There's regular people who work in the airport. There's ticketing agents. There's corporate involved with pilot union, flight attendant union. I don't know, air traffic control has their own union. Again, I'm not in their construct, not because I didn't want to be, just it was not offered. And I wouldn't know how to gain entry. I tried for stewardess once, but a flight attendant, whatever they call them, but it was, I never got a call it back or in. But these signs that go up are with the U.S. involvement at some level, with the us, between the us there and the us here. It's more of like, I would say, family estate issues. That's what I thought it was. But it's gotten a little polluted with so many variations. And now I'm watching them take down, because now President Joe Biden, on the interior of the United States, but of North America, where he commands from the White House, supposedly, that's the story that I have been given, he handles the federal part, is what they've been speaking on, and then the governors take their lead from his position. That's what they've explained. That's what I'm trying to follow at the moment. But then there's something else with the aviation industry. And then there's something that has a USS that floats. So that's the us with somebody specials. And I don't know how to integrate that into a conversation because I don't even have admirable language in order to address them properly. I'm just talking strictly air, between the air and the land. It's so confusing here. And these people have had 4 decades. Linda's 7 decades. I'm 4 decades by this point to build these airports, to have this signage, to have this traveling, whatever, and try to scale back with the energy requirements. I mean, in the 1970s, when I arrived right before, they were already in energy crisis. How could they continuously push for more energy consumptive and getting people hooked on these things? And over my 4 decades, worse, because then it comes with large power plants and large price tags.
Signs. Amtrak lifting the mandate on their trains. Uber and Lyft saying masks will now be optional for both drivers and passengers. But as I mentioned, many big cities, including New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and LA, leaving the mask requirement in place, at least for now, on public transport.
That makes sense.
Transportation and at airports, which essentially means you're supposed to put the mask back on once you land in those cities to walk through the airport. All of this amid the rise in new cases, 33 states tonight with cases rising by 10% or more in just the last week, driven by the Omicron.
Just like some people are really comfortable in hospitals and they have whatever they have in medical sales or medical equipment or inspections or whatever. Some people feel that way about walking through these airports. They know them, they're like second homes. They fly in, they fly out. I'm not one of those people.
Omicron subvariant. Tonight, what President Biden said today when he was asked, should Americans still be wearing masks on planes? And just in tonight, the Biden administration just moments ago saying it will only appeal this ruling that ended the mask mandate if the CDC believes it's still needed. So now we await word from the CDC. Are they concerned enough about these new cases to push for an appeal? ABC's Gio Benitez covers aviation, and he has the scenes tonight from flights across this country.
Just 24 hours after that federal mask mandate was dropped on planes and public transportation, the signs coming down.
The signs coming down. Now, they have, here, what is this? And what is this word? There's confidentiality, and then there's confidently. So incidentally, here's the prior. Travel is going up, and now it's confidently MSP, but in lowercase. And so now they're taking this down. I don't know what lowercase m, lowercase s, lowercase p with a whatever underneath it. I don't know what that means. But now they're taking down the signs that were put out. Again, I don't know if MS is the multiple sclera, not multiple scoliosis or but more of a multiple sclera, meaning of the eye, the white part of the eye. How many eyes did you have on it? That kind of thing.
More masks coming off.
I would say like 25% of people were not wearing a mask. And it was not a big deal at all.
Does that concern you at all, that the plane may have people with...
That is a saying. It's no big deal. Not a big deal. Oh, is that what they were saying to each other? At times it seems like it's a big deal, and then at other times it's confusing, with major mask confusion as to how big of a deal are we talking? Like, what's on the back end of this? What's the backstory? What's the forward facing? What do we need to do in order to correct this if we're not allowed to know the back stuff? I mean, when they say no big deal, I'm like, now is that a no? Because it feels like there's, and I don't want to say no boundaries, but because there's got to be boundaries somewhere. It's just I don't have someone to look up to ask where the boundary lines are so I don't overstep the bounds.
without a mask on?
A little, but
Yeah?
we're gonna wear ours.
Yeah, I'm not really that concerned.
And after nearly 2 years of having to referee disputes over masks on board,
Now that was interesting. I don't know what WFS is. Again, and this is with this person for credit on who took the original video, so that person gets credit, and it was on World News Tonight. Again, this is not my scene on board. That's, I believe, Federal Air Marshal's territory, but again, I don't know anybody in that layer of employee or employ.
Referee disputes over masks on board. Some flight attendants are happy to give passengers the option. Tonight, the CDC is still recommending masks during travel, but the president today saying airline passengers should make their own decision.
Mr. President, should people continue to wear masks on planes?
That's up to them.
Still, Americans now face a confusing patchwork of rules. You can fly without a mask in and out of New York's LaGuardia and Kennedy airports, but you'll need to put it on while walking through the airport.
It's like contradicting. It's like a lot of stuff going on. Oh, don't do this, don't do that, and then we have to listen to both.
And while Amtrak and rideshare services like Uber and Lyft have all dropped their mask rules, several major cities like New York, LA, and San Francisco still require them on some public transit. This as infection rates climb across 33 states.
All right, now this is interesting because in this particular, now remember, this is world news. It's not my local. So it's not big. They're delivering this as world into Big Apple. But the Big Apple news I had earlier was slightly different as far as this map is concerned by several features. So I'm not counting the interior states. I'm just glancing over them. Like, this is still the same shape. Great. I don't know. But here, this is not in a box by itself. But here's the this is the continental, and then these are the other two that are sometimes spoken of. And then over here, but not inside of a box, it's a different shape. Which this shape only started appearing today in my news. Whether it be world news or local news, I can't tell the difference for incoming unless they decipher that. But today, that addition of puzzle piece suddenly appeared, whereas normally it's not on the evening news, from what I've been documenting.
States. CDC data out today shows that new Omicron subvariant BA.2.12.1, which could be about 25% more contagious than BA.2.
Now, this is also interesting because the one local set of news that they've been my feet are in what urban legend refers to as Big Apple or Empire State. But they call it New York for official purposes in that unified system that they have going on. And then there's this world microphone. So like there's the AM, let's say, for instance, on the New York with the unified. And then if there's an FM, being a foreign ministry or foreign made or foreign whatever, that gets horned in once a day in order to check the two programs for somebody. And I don't know what they do for a living. I don't even know how to speak their importance. The one earlier, in like an AM, was reporting as a BA.2. In this evening of FM, even though on the circle instrument, now that it's the second rotation, they call it the PM. Again, this is a whatever, and I can explain my system, but I shouldn't have to this intensely. So on the FM version of PM, they're putting it as a BA.212.1. Which is the first time I've seen that referenced in that manner. I don't know what that pertains to. And the source is CDC. And the faces I have coming in from the CDC or that represents themselves at something with a CDC level does not look familiar. So I don't know if the message is convoluted for princely racket purpose of deconstructing and moving appropriate safely to wherever it can be, whatever, in whatever, for however that works.
Makes up nearly a fifth of all new cases in the U.S. and more than half of the cases in New York and New Jersey.
Removing the mask on flights and public transportation creates a worry that will only add fuel to the fire and increase the risk of cases and transmission in the community and ultimately hospitalizations and deaths.
And after those mid-flight announcements that masks were no longer needed,
Masks now optional for employees, customers, following White House.
some passengers, like Brooke Tansley, say they were upset and caught off guard. She was flying across the country with her kids, who are too young to get the vaccine, when her pilot shared the news.
I don't begrudge him his excitement. I just wish that he would have taken a minute to consider people in different circumstances and the decision he was making on behalf of everyone on that plane.
A lot of different views on this. Gio joins us from Newark Airport tonight. And Gio, I mentioned at the top tonight that there is late word this evening the Biden administration will appeal this if the CDC believes it's still needed.
Yeah, that's right, David. And it is a big if. That decision, that announcement coming down just moments ago from the Department of Justice. We do not know what the CDC will decide.
It almost feels from like a chair in like a dead end position, like I got nowhere in life watching this. It's almost like as if this mask decision is like a not it. Like, you know, I don't know, as kids, I've watched them do this. It's like everybody wants to play tag and then all of a sudden they're like, not it, wasn't me. I mean, again, not my cup of tea, not my echelon, but I've seen them in this whatever.
Or when, but we do know that the CDC is concerned about that rise in cases, and that's why they asked for that 2-week extension to begin with, David.
Gio Benitez leading us off tonight. Gio, thank you. And of course, the other major headline as we're on the air tonight, the war in Ukraine, Russia now declaring that its new offensive is now underway. Russia's effort to seize the eastern part of Ukraine.
So it's star 1978, star 8378. Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. And it's April 19th, 2022.